Hello darling, how are you? Of course you know we are in circus and some ingenious. Of course darling, that is what you can have. That I don't wanna be safe, that I don't want none of your kids. Of course darling, that is what you can have here. That I don't wanna die in the sea. Of course darling, I don't wanna die in the sea. And that they give me kids like the whole people who is dying and the people who is offering them hearts and things like those. Of course darling, that is what you can have here. That we have many virgins and many lambs. Of course darling, and I'm not agree. Of course darling, that is what you can have here. That I don't want the heart from no one. I don't want to take care of none kid who is not mine. Of course darling, that is what you can have. That when my money is declared, I have many bitches counting and washing my money, and you can see that this money is mine. Of course darling, that is what you can have. That the whole money I have is mine, and you know that I have many bitches counting. Of course darling, that is what you can have here. That you can go to Neonai. Of course darling, that is what you can see. That there I have the bitches counting my money. Of course darling, that is what you can see. That no one can against me. That in Neonai I have my whole bitches counting the money and washing and declaring. Of course darling, that is what you can see. That my whole money is mine, and that I don't wanna take care of no one. Of course who is not mine. Of course darling, that is what you can have here. Of course darling, and if I'm wrong, please call the police and take me to the judge. Of course darling, that is what you can have. Of course, that is what you can have here. That if I'm wrong, please call the police and take me to the judge. Of course, that is what you can have. That I don't have problems with that. That if I'm guilty, I wanna be guilty, of course. But I have my whole bitches counting and washing and declaring, and I, of course, darling, that is what you can have. That my whole money is mine, and everyone knows it. Of course, darling. Of course, darling, that I'm in the Grand 12 with the white suit and the silver gun and my marks. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That you want to clean the bloodline with some cross. Of course, some Roman nobility bloodline cleaned with the cross and things like those. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. But the suicide around me, they want the 10, want the lottery and suicide around me. Of course, darling, but I didn't want to bury him. But okay, if you suicide, I have no other choice. Of course, darling, that is what you can have here. Of course, that is what you can have. Of course, now they have to go. Of course, darling, they wanna bring a god. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. But I can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That now they are here. Of course, darling, they wanna shoot me. Of course, they wanna bring a god. Of course, darling, but I don't wanna be saved. Of course, darling, when I die, I don't wanna go to the place. Of course, darling, when I die, I don't wanna die in the sea, and that they offer me hearts and things like those. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That I don't need no one to give me a heart. I don't wanna be saved. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. But don't forget me, darling, or it's gonna be ugly. Of course, darling, but I don't want none of your lives. Of course, darling, don't forget me. Of course, darling, what do you think? Of course, that is what you can have. That I could hurt you, but I don't wanna. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That I can still alive, but I don't want. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, but I don't want none. Of course, darling, I don't wanna reincarnate in the sea. Of course, darling, that is what you can have here. That I'm in circus, handsome and genius. Of course, darling, that is what you can have here. So I kiss and bye. Of course, darling, I don't wanna be saved. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That I have the marks. Of course, I don't wanna be God and that no one offers me his heart. Of course, darling, I don't want a life from no one. Of course, darling, I already told you that my whole money is clean, declared and washed, of course, but neon eye, of course, darling, that is what you can see that I was there, of course, darling, that is what you can have, that my whole money is clean and washed and declared by neon eye, of course, darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against me, of course, darling, that is what you can have here, of course, darling, that is what you can have, that I don't wanna be saved, I don't wanna take care of a kid who isn't mine, of course, and no one should, of course, darling, that is what you can have, of course, darling, that is what you can have, that I don't want, of course, darling, that is what you can have, that here the only thing that happens is bang, bang, of course, darling, that is what you can have, that I don't wanna survive, that I don't wanna be saved, of course, darling, I think it's a crazy history, a crazy belief, of course, darling, no one should die in the sea, no one should take care of a kid who isn't his and hers, of course, that is what you can have, that no one should die in the sea, of course, I don't wanna be saved, of course, darling, that is what you can have, but remember me because I did good things, of course,